Welcome to SEC Primetime with Starks and Stern. He's Clint Stoerner, I'm Max Starks, and we are here. Clint, CFP college rankings have come out, and the CFP gods have spoken that no matter how embarrassing of a loss it was to Texas A&M, Bama is still Bama, and Georgia, those dogs are drooling all over the top 25. We have the top two seeds in this first one. Looking at that scope, were you surprised at Bama's seeding, given who else is right there hovering in that top six, or were you expecting that all along?
No, look, I think when you talk about college football playoff rankings, I think Alabama's number one is always going to be given the benefit of the doubt, and rightfully so. They've earned their way there. I think Georgia is a no-brainer at this point in time, the number one team in the country. And so when you start looking down the list there with Michigan State at 3, I don't have a problem with them ranking Alabama ahead of Michigan State. Michigan State is having a great season, no doubt about it. But you got to question their quality of wins along the way. I think you look at Oregon. Oregon's the one to me that doesn't belong. Oregon has lost a game to a 3-5 football team. I don't understand it, Max. To this day, I will never understand it. I believe it was the very first college football playoff rankings that came out. Maybe not the ones that came out, but that year, their national championship, their college football playoff bracket, their 4 teams. One of them was Ohio State, and they lost to a 6-6 Virginia Tech football team at home that year. And I'm just here to tell you, I believe that part of being a champion, at least part of being a champion, is taking care of business all year long, showing up for 12 or 13 weeks every single Saturday afternoon or whenever the hell you play your football games. I think that's part of being a champion. Beating teams that you're supposed to skull drag. I don't give a damn if 2 or 3 players were out from COVID-19. A 3-5 football team is the team that Oregon should be if they're going to be in the top 4 in the country. And so when I look at this, Georgia's a no-brainer. Alabama's a no-brainer. Michigan State, I completely understand. They got work left to do. Oregon is the one to me that I'm just like, what in the hell are these guys looking at other than that nice shiny logo on that helmet and the fact that you get the West Coast in that footprint of the college football playoff, at least for the time being. I don't like Oregon at 4 at all.
Well, the one thing that surprised me was, I get Cincinnati's got to make not going to make the top 4 because it's a group of 5. And no matter how good that win against Notre Dame is or isn't, they're just not going to get placed out. This is the highest they've ever been placed. But like you said, to see Oregon there, to see Ohio State, who lost to that same said Oregon team in front of Cincy, just bothers me. Like when I see that, I'm like, Cincy should at least have been at 5. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look at the AP, they're hovering somewhere in that top 4, and then for the CFP to come out and say, "Nah, still not good enough." Boom, you guys are 2 solid wins behind guys who lost. One lost to the other, and like you said, the other one lost to a team they should have skull drug in that situation. So that just, it kind of gnaws at me a little bit. I'm upset about that. Just because I do want to see I feel like since he's put in the work over the last 2 years, that they deserve a little bit more credit. They can't help what their schedule is, right? Because we schedule out 10, 15 years in the future. We schedule for our children's children to play at these college games. Whereas we saw what happens with a BYU and a Coastal Carolina. If you want to get it done, it will get done. And they obviously want to play any competition they can because they feel they deserve it. And they played as such. So so it's frustrating to see Oregon up there, like you said. It's strictly a land grab for viewers and attention to get the Pac-12 involved with the West Coast viewership, but this isn't the way to do that. I mean, and I know the season will play itself out. They always say they'll correct themselves, but to come out at the beginning, you should have just went ahead and just put them at 5 or 4, put them in the top 5 where they're in reach and let them earn their graces back into it, as opposed to kind of giving them a seat and telling them it's yours till you lose it.
Yeah, look, Max, when we shift the college football playoff conversation to Cincinnati, you want to talk about being rubbed wrong, man. I've been rubbed wrong with the way they treat group of 5 teams from the jump. That's one reason why I'm a big proponent of the expansion, college football playoff expansion, to give the best group of 5 team an automatic bid in, the highest ranked one in, let them in the playoff in any way, shape, or form. They deserve a seat, right? But Cincinnati, I told Bryce Petty this the last time I did our After Dark show with Bryce Petty over there in the Big 12, former Baylor quarterback. I told him, man, I said, look, Bryce, until they do it, until the college football playoff committee actually commits to putting a group of 5 team in the position to where if they have a hell of a season, if they win non-conference games versus Power 5s, if they win those non-conference versus Power 5 on the road, like they did at Indiana and Notre Dame, if they skull drag everybody on their schedule otherwise, at least put them in, at least give them an opportunity to be in the top 4 initially and earn their way through the next 4 or 5 weeks, earn their way to a college football playoff. Make other teams win their conference in order to upseat Cincinnati. At least make it challenging for these other schools to replace Cincinnati in that top 4. Putting them outside the top 4 right now, I think, is wrong, and it makes it much more challenging for them to crawl back up into that 4. Really, it leaves it up to the other Power 5 teams. Somebody's got to upset somebody. Somebody's got to lose more than one ball game. And if you look at the remaining schedules, that's damn near impossible. And so I'm with you, man. When you talk about it from the Cincinnati's perspective, I would like to see a group of 5 team get in personally, Max, but I just stick to my guns. I don't think the college football playoff is ever going to pass up that Power 5 money, that Notre Dame money, that Oregon money, that those brands that come with the Oklahomas and the Michigans. They're never going to pick up a group of 5 football team over a marginal Power 5 team that has that kind of brand power. It's just not going to happen. And this is just one more example.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think when we look at just how it shakes out, I mean, it's saying pretty much you got to have 2 losses in order for Cincinnati to jump you.
Yeah.
I mean, because undefeated means nothing. I mean, you look at that respect and also Oklahoma's respect as well. Oklahoma's 9-0, got more wins than anybody else on the list. And you see where they slotted them at 8. So, I mean, am I a little disappointed? Yeah, I am. But I will say this: I am happy to see Georgia and Bama up there at number 1 and 2, because I think that's appropriate, because they do have the gauntlets versus what Michigan State has. We haven't seen them play Ohio State, right? The only way you get to see Ohio State is in the championship game. So, I mean, that's a rubber match. Oregon beat Ohio State, but same time, you lose that bad one. So why not have them earn their way back into it? But I think like you said, it's too much money. Those symbols hold a lot of power.
Yeah, I mean, Max, here's the deal. I went back and I was rewatching, I think, the Ole Miss Auburn game, and it was Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge. And at that point in time, it was before this college football playoff came out, right? So we had the AP had Cincinnati at number 2. Sean McDonough had Cincinnati at number 3. And Todd Blackledge had Cincinnati at number 4. I'd say those are 3 pretty well-respected football minds in the AP, Sean McDonough and Todd Blackledge. And then all of a sudden, the college football playoff committee gets behind a closed door around that big, nice cherry oak desk that they all sit around in there, and they decide they're number 6. And teams that have lost to sub-500 football teams are above them. I mean, it's just a slap in the face. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but damn it, Max, it pisses me off.
Before we move on to the line of the week, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just 1 playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With football season in full swing, get on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, no, and you know what? I'm glad you mentioned you rewatched that Ole Miss Auburn game, because that leads us into our next topic. I mean, you're a good segue guy. I mean, I gotta say, it's refreshing. Um, we talked about Bo Nix last week.
Yeah.
We talked about Bo Nix throughout this year. And it's been this roller coaster. It's going up and down, up and down. What do we expect from Bo Nix? Answers the call in LSU, and then, he kind of subs himself out and then comes back big against Ole Miss. I mean, are they for real? I mean, can they actually make that run at Bama? We got Texas A&M first. That's before we get to the Iron Bowl. But I mean, is this Auburn team for real? Is Brian Harsin's squad primed and ready right now at this position?
I think they're for real, Max. I really do. And I started out, I was going to tell you, well, I need to apologize, but to hell with that. I'm not apologizing to anybody. I mean, The fact of the matter is we're watching Bo Nix play a brand of football that we've never seen at the quarterback position. Any way you slice it, it started against Arkansas. You talk about just a nice, accurate distributor of the football. Did it flawlessly and does it impressively, actually, at this point, stretching the field sideline to sideline. And then you look at his ability to throw the big ball over the top. It's improved since the beginning of the year. There's no question about it. And then you look at how well they're running the football, which includes the quarterback in that run game. I just think this is a two-dimensional football team. They throw it well in the quick game and the deep game and the screen game, by the way. They run it well with several running backs and their quarterback, whether it's a 4-minute offense or it's early in the ball game and they're getting exotic inside the 10-yard line. And so this is some of the best ball that I've seen Auburn play, obviously, all year long. I think that you look at Mike Bobo's offense. I think the players are taking to it. They're getting better week in, week out. And I think Derek Mason is one of the best defensive minds in the game on the defense side of the football as the coordinator. And so, yeah, man, I think Auburn is for real, man. I've watched them closely since that Arkansas game, and I'm convinced that they have the horses to go in there versus Alabama and lean on them and have a chance to win this ball game in the fourth quarter. And that right there in itself is saying a lot, because I didn't think Auburn had the ability to do that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, what Auburn has done to really shape shift how people view them, how they look at them has been amazing. And like you said, that benching might have been the greatest move of the season for Bo Nix, right? Yeah. Brian Harsin deciding to sit him and bring in Finley and let Finley finish out that Georgia State game, because what we got after was that cracked egg. It was no longer an egg wondering, is it going to become a chick? He cracked it himself, and an eagle flew out of there.
That's right.
Or a war damn eagle at that. But I mean, it is impressive, like you said, to see what Bo Nix has become. And they are a team like, yes, is it the sexiest of teams? No, absolutely not. But they rely on being tough and physical at the point of attack in the rush game, using the play action in the RPO game with Bo Nix. And then the defense is bend but don't break. Like they are going to try and get after you. They're going to try and play tough in the trenches, and then just try their best not to give up the big play against you. So I think when you look at, they've gone through that maturation in this process. I mean, do you think Texas A&M with that crew? I know that they've finally kind of broken out of their shell as well with Calzada, right? I mean, he has matured throughout that. We've watched him grow in front of our eyes, right? It's almost like watching the Bob Ross chia pet. Hair starts to grow, you put the little seed paste on there and like, oh, okay, the Calzada plan is working right now. What do you see in this game kind of shaking down between these two? Because I think this is a really good matchup when you're looking at it. Yes, they're right next to each other in the rankings, 13 and 14. But, I think this is a very evenly matched game. Do you think Auburn can go take this show on the road to Kyle Field and actually come out with the W against the Aggies?
Oh, I think they can. I think they're capable of it. When I watched earlier in the year, I don't know if it was week 1 or week 2 versus Penn State, I left that particular game with a newfound respect for what Auburn was going to be this year under Brian Harsin and company. And so, yeah, I think they'll be okay in Kyle Field. I mean, you can compare Kyle Field to Happy Valley and at Penn State. And I think they handled that as good as they possibly could. Gave themselves a chance to win late in the football game. And so, yeah, I think they'll be fine. But I think the Texas A&M matchup is big time before we ever get to the Iron Bowl, right? I think when you look at the Texas A&M matchup between them and Auburn, whichever team comes out of that game as the victor, I think you can say, okay, at that point in time, they're a legit contender, and not contender in for a national championship, obviously, but a contender in the SEC. Look, A&M has they slipped up too much too early to legitimately be a contender. But when we talk about the better teams in the SEC West, I think A&M is actually up there more so than what their record shows. Whoever right now, A&M has beat one team, Bama. They beat one team. That's it. That is who that on their schedule. Arkansas beat them, Mississippi State beat them, they beat Missouri, South Carolina, and they beat Bama. They haven't beat anybody. They haven't beat anybody in that upper echelon of the SEC at this point in time as this thing unfolds. So is A&M, are they who we saw earlier in the season when they lost to Mississippi State and they lost to Arkansas? Or are they the team that beat Alabama? If you win this week, you're more so the team that beat Alabama than you are the team that sits with Arkansas and Mississippi State, right? If Auburn goes into Kyle Field and beats number 14 Texas A&M, the team that beat Alabama, all of a sudden we're not asking the question of whether Auburn is for real or not anymore. Auburn is legitimately got them. They're going to give Bama all they want in the Iron Bowl if they can go to Kyle Field and upset, if you will, A&M. Then I'm much more of a believer that they can go to they can play Bama in the Iron Bowl late and upset them.
Well, no, I think you're right on track. I mean, I want to see this. I think Auburn can. I think they have the skill, they have the tools. You know, it's just going to come to which Texas A&M defense shows up, right? The one that played Bama or the one that played Mississippi State. You know, I think that's kind of where you have to ask, or hell, for that matter, the one that played Arkansas. You know, which one's going to show up? Because that's going to even this out, as opposed to allowing this to potentially be a 1+ score game. Is which defense shows up? I think Calzada, I think with Spiller and Weidermeyer and company there on the offensive side, they can keep pace as long as that defense is willing to make some stops and get the ball back in their favor, because they're going to need a couple extra possessions, I think, to make sure they keep pace. Whereas I think Auburn can score more frequently. And it would be even more, I think, wide-eyed if that defense is just giving up junk yards to Tank Bigsby left and right.
I think Auburn's got more of an identity. I think Auburn's more of a true, they got run pass options. Not RPOs, but they can run it well and they can throw it well. They do run RPOs, but you get my point. They can run it well and they throw it well. I think they're better at the quarterback position. I think they're more confident at the quarterback position. And so I think Auburn's got a real chance to go into Kyle Field and win that ball game. And if they do, I think it's going to be a huge statement win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to touch on a quick topic before we get to our Bet Rivers sports line. And that's Dan Mullen. Hot seat. Is it fair or farce? Oh, I just came up with a new segment right there. Fair or farce? What say you, Clint Stoerner?
I think it's farce. I think it's absolutely crazy, man. I mean, if Florida even considers it, shame on them. And if they do, if LSU and Texas Tech and TCU and all these other USC, all these other openings aren't beating down his front door, they're crazier than hell, man. Look, you know how I feel about Dan Mullen. I think he's a great head coach. A little bit awkward of a dude, a little different dude, beats to a little different drum. Yeah. But so be it, man. I think he, in this big scheme of things, I think he is a phenomenal head coach. More importantly, in today's game, he is a phenomenal quarterback developer. I think he's a great schemer. I think he lost a whole hell of a lot of players last year that he developed and that he brought to the point of where they were as good as they were offensively last year. I think he's got Anthony Richardson sitting right there in the wings, ready to take this thing over. And by the way, I don't know exactly where Anthony Richardson's head's at. I've heard some rumblings of him maybe making some comments or tweeting something that he's not happy. He'd be crazy as hell if he left Florida and left the nest of Dan Mullen, if you will. So I think it's absolutely crazy that that's even been mentioned or that it's even the topic that you and I are discussing right now, man. The Florida Gators are lucky to have Dan Mullen, and Dan Mullen will win in a big way in Gainesville if they just give him time and don't look. Every time he lost an unbelievable amount of talent last year. I mean, your quarterback along with unbelievable weapons, right? I mean, it's no wonder that they had a little bit of a backslide here. And it's a tough schedule that they've played so far. I wouldn't bail out on Dan Mullen yet. I wouldn't even shake my mouth to say the words.
Well, and I think even more so, the fact that this was a rebuild year initially, and I think people started smelling the vapors when they saw what the preseason ranking came out and what they were kind of like, oh my gosh, since we're top 10, we should be that good. No, that's what preseason rankings are for. It's a guess, and we lost a whole hell of a lot. If you want to talk about preseason rankings, who are those top 3 Heisman guys? Top 3 Heisman's, preseason all-conference, preseason all-American. Where are they? Where is Spencer Rattler? Right? Let's talk about that. Where's Sam Howell? Hello? I mean, so, for us and me as a proud Florida alum, right? I'm also a fan. I knew it wasn't going to be that great. I was, it was like hoping on a prayer every time. That Bama game, I was like, hell yeah, we got within 2. We beat the spread. Hell yeah, I'll take that all day. But for us to think that, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to beat up Georgia, I mean, that's tough. That's a tough task. And, I was happy to see that they put Anthony Richard in and gave him a chance to play against that and get used to that taste of playing those big time games. But I mean, he looked like a freshman. I mean, he looked like CJ Stroud at the beginning of the season. And we remember how sloppy that was at Ohio State. So, this is just those growing pains in the process, but you're absolutely right. You texted me this earlier and I completely agreed. GTFOH.
Yeah.
For Dan Mullen being on a hot seat. And we'll leave it at that. It's asinine. It's stupid. I listen on Twitter when we have our little post-Gator discussion posts in there. I go log in the room and listen as I'm driving. And it's amazing to me some of the things people expect for people that have not been on the field, on the turf. They have not been in that room on the grease board watching film and putting on pads and running and everything else, 2-a-days, everything included. And you got this strong opinion. I'm like, hey, listen, simmer down. Remember what McElwain and Muschamp was before you start trying to put Dan Mullen on the hot seat. Remember those years.
Yeah.
So, and then move from there. But that's enough, right? Like you said, we gave it too much credence already. So listen, let's just go ahead and let's just jump into the last topic. It's LSU Bama is the line for our Bet River Sports line this week. And I got to say, this one's it's a little wide on this one. LSU is plus 28.
Oh, wow.
4 tutties. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 14, 21, 28. The points scored in this, which is 65 and a half points. And you're giving up 28. I'm just doing the math. That's a lot to a little.
Yeah.
What do you say about that? What do you see in that one?
Man, I'm gonna take LSU in this one, man. That's a lot of points. And one, I don't think they can have as bad a luck as Florida had last week versus Georgia. I view this game very similarly as I did Florida, Georgia last week. And I felt like I was really on to something before that 21-point swing in about a minute and a half there at the end of the first half. Max, I felt like I should call you and apologize for that. But I feel the same way. Look, I think obviously Alabama's a better football team, much better football team on all fronts. They're more talented. They're coached better. They've got better quarterback play. But there's no doubt about it that LSU will take their game to a whole other level in terms of individual players, will take their game to a whole other level when Alabama's across the field from them. And I think that LSU has the horses to lean on Alabama in a way that not many teams in the SEC West do. Not many teams in the SEC East do. So I think man-to-man, they can match up and not get bullied by Alabama. And so with that said, I think 28 points is a little bit much. I think Alabama is vulnerable. I said this all year long. I think they're vulnerable. And when you match up big bodies in the trenches that can lean on them and keep from getting bullied, I think it is an absolute game changer. I think Alabama wins the ball game, but I love LSU to cover the spread, the 28-point spread, and I like the over in that ball game.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna start with likeness and go to differences. Likeness, I'm taking over with you. I think points will be scored. I think Bama now sitting at that 2 seed is reinvigorated, right? To go out and just stomp mud holes in whoever they can the rest of the way so that they get that tilt against Georgia. And hopefully it's a tight game either way so they both still make it in. So I think Bama's reinvigorated. Number 2, we all know Nick Saban after a bye is a mother. and it's not your mama, but he's your mother something else. So giving Nick Saban 2 weeks to dissect LSU is tough. Just gonna put that out there. It's a tough one. I actually like Bama to cover this spread.
Ooh.
I know. Hey, listen. If you want to step in the ring, make sure you wear the heavyweight gloves. Okay. Make sure you. I'm willing to go in there and go toe to toe because I think Bama has something to prove. I think they want to keep that pace because they got that stain of that 1 on there, and you know that's gonna piss Nick Saban off worse than a gnat that you can't catch around your face. You know what I'm saying? Like he's going to be pissed off, and he's going to keep the gas on the pedal the entire time. And I don't know where LSU's mind's at. Right? You had the big game against Florida. You tear it up, then you lose to Ole Miss, who had run gap issues, and they hold you to 17 points, and then you get a bye. I don't know where the kids' heads at with Ed O being gone, and now you have the lame duck coach. Like it's now start to set in that you got lame duck coach status. And I don't know if those kids are going to fight. I think some guys are going to fight. I don't know if the whole team's ready to fight. And that's my one question. If I look to the left, I look to the right, and I see that 1 bead of sweat coming down, and I start to smell something that is not so fresh coming down the leg, I'm worried. And I get the pants are yellow, so you can kind of hide it, but still. That's where I worry. And I think Bama wants to come out with a painted face and a dark heart because they know that they need to cover this to keep pace so they can stay in that top 4 realm because they have that 1 loss.
48-21 Bama, the over and LSU.
All right, I'm going to go 48-14.
Oh.
Bama. I think it's still 48. I think 48-52 is the range. But I don't think LSU scores more than 14 points. If you only score 17 on Ole Miss, I'm gonna give you credence for 2 touchdowns. But I can't give you anything else, Edo. I love you. You're as Cajun as the day is long, but I can't give you that much credence. So there it is. You heard it from the horse's mouths, both of ours. I said Bama covers over. Clint said Bama does not cover, but they hit the over. And that's it. Go to betrivers.com or go to BetRivers on the iOS app. Place your own votes in. Place your own bets. It's your money. Remember that $250, that cash rush bonus you get? Go ahead, use that to make the bet so you don't feel bad about it if you lose it. Don't pay much. Checks post-dated. But with that, we're done with the show. And once again, please continue to tune in. Please continue to hit the like button, subscribe to it. We enjoy this. Clint and I love this back and forth. We love to be able to reach out to you guys and talk about the greatest conference there is in the land, which is the SEC. So with that, we bid you adieu. We'll talk to you next week. This has been SEC Primetime with Starks and Stern.